Hey everyone, I'm Eric. You know that feeling, right? When you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and every single option just feels like a bad compromise? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful way of thinking that helps you just smash right through that trap and start solving what feel like impossible problems.
All right, so let's imagine this scenario. You're a manager, and your boss comes to you with an order. They say, hey, I need you to cut the budget by 20%. Okay, fine. Oh, and by the way, at the same time, I need you to increase team morale. Wait, what? How are you supposed to do that? Slashing the budget usually means cutting all the fun stuff, right? It's a classic either-or situation. You can save money, or you can make people happy. You can't possibly do both, or can you?
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. It's about two totally different ways of thinking. See, most of us, we're trained to be conventional thinkers. We see option A and option B, and our brain immediately goes, okay, which one sucks less? We just assume that's the reality we have to work with. But the most successful leaders and creators, they do something completely different. They use what author Roger Martin calls integrative thinking. They look at the two bad options and say, nope, not playing this game. They don't just choose, they create. They ask a much better question. How can I build a totally new option that's better than both?
So this powerful idea has a name, and it comes from Roger Martin's book. It's called the Opposable Mind, and honestly, it's like getting a major upgrade for your brain's operating system. Now, to really understand what this means, let's talk about something we all have, an opposable thumb. Think about it. What makes our hands so incredibly useful? It's this thumb, right? This one little piece of evolutionary genius allows us to grip, to hold, to build tools, to basically shape the physical world around us. It literally changed everything for humanity.
And that is the perfect metaphor for what we're talking about with the mind. An opposable mind is the mental equivalent of that thumb. It's the ability to hold two completely opposite ideas in your head at the exact same time and not have your brain explode. You know? Instead of your mind immediately trying to pick one to get rid of that uncomfortable tension, you actually use that tension. It becomes the creative spark for something brand new.
Okay, so let's put a formal definition on this. Integrative thinking, and this is super important, it is not about compromise. It's not about finding some lame, watered-down middle ground. No, it's about generating a totally new solution, a creative resolution that cherry-picks the best elements from both opposing ideas and fuses them into something that's way, way better than either of the original options on their own.
All right, theory is great, but let's see how this works in the real world. I want to tell you about a guy named Isidore Sharp. He's the founder of the Four Seasons Hotels. And when he was starting out, he was facing this exact kind of either-or trap. All the experts, all the business gurus, pretty much everyone around him was saying, look, Izzy, you got to choose, pick a side. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
So back in the day, if you wanted to stay at a hotel, you basically had two options. On one hand, you had Model A, the massive cookie-cutter business hotel. You know the type. They're efficient, they've got a pool, a conference room, all the amenities. But they're also totally anonymous and impersonal. Then you had Model B, the small, fancy boutique hotel. Super intimate, incredible service where they know your name, but probably no gym and only a handful of rooms. So the choice was clear, scale or service. Pick one.
But Isidore Sharp? He just refused to accept that choice. He held both of those models in his head, the big, efficient one and the small, intimate one, and he asked, how do I get both? And what he came up with, well, it changed the entire industry. His real genius was redefining what luxury even meant. It wasn't about fancy buildings or gold-plated everything. It was about creating a system for delivering unparalleled, personalized service, but on a large scale. He didn't just pick an option. He created an entirely new category of hotel.
Okay, so that's the what, and it's a really powerful story. But the big question is, how do we actually do this? How can we apply it? Well, there's actually a process for it. So let's break down the 4 steps.
So Roger Martin lays out 4 key steps: salience, causality, architecture, and resolution. Now I know, those words sound kind of academic and complicated, but don't worry, they're actually really practical. Let's walk through them using that manager problem from the beginning. You know, cut the budget, but also boost morale.
Okay. Step 1 is salience. The easiest way to think about this is zooming out. A conventional thinker looks at the problem and only sees 2 things, budget and morale. But an integrative thinker deliberately widens the frame. They ask, okay, what are all the factors at play here? What really affects how my team feels at work? And all of a sudden, you're not just talking about money. You're talking about crazy workloads, pointless meetings, slow software. You're acknowledging that the real world is way more complex.
Step 2 is causality. This is where you start connecting the dots. A conventional thinker sees a simple, straight line. Less money equals sad employees. End of story. But an integrative thinker sees a complex web. They start mapping it out and realize, wait a minute, these terrible, inefficient meetings are forcing my team to work late, and that's what's crushing morale. And boom, you have an insight. The real problem isn't a shortage of money, it's a shortage of time. It's time poverty caused by bad systems.
And that insight leads us right into steps 3 and 4, architecture and resolution. This is where you design your breakthrough solution. Instead of doing the obvious thing, like cutting the travel budget, you create a brilliant option C. You announce a new efficiency initiative. You empower them to find and kill all the stupid, time-sucking processes. And guess what? This saves a ton of money in hidden costs, like overtime. And even better, you're giving your team back their most valuable asset, their time. That boosts morale more than any free lunch ever could. You solved both problems at once.
Okay, that's the whole process. Pretty powerful stuff. But like any skill, you have to practice it to get good at it. So let's talk about how you can actually start building this opposable mind muscle, starting right now.
First things first, you have to expand your mental models. You know the saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail? So you need more tools. Go read a book from a completely different industry. Talk to people you normally disagree with, not to argue, but to understand. And here's the key. Ask yourself this game-changing question. Okay, their idea sounds crazy to me, but in what situation would their idea actually be brilliant? That question forces you to see the world through a new lens.
Okay, practice number 2 is a super practical exercise you can do with just a pen and paper. Next time you're facing a tough either-or choice, do this. On the left side of the paper, write down all the good things about option A. On the right side, write down all the good things about option B. Now just look at those 2 columns of pros and ask yourself the magic question. How can I create a new option C that combines one of these awesome pros from the left with one of these awesome pros from the right? It's a simple trick, but it physically switches your brain from choosing to creating.
And the final practice is all about communication. Because it's not enough to have a brilliant new idea. You have to get other people on board. And the best way to do that is to tell a compelling story. Don't just show them a spreadsheet. Frame it like this. First, start with the dilemma everyone recognizes. Then, share your aha moment. But then we realize the real problem was something totally different. And finally, you unveil your new vision. That's how you turn a plan into a movement.
So as we bring this all together, what's the one big idea you should walk away with? It's really about a fundamental shift in your entire mindset.
Really, it all comes down to this simple phrase. Life and business will always try to force you into choosing between 2 bad options. The most powerful thing you can do is not to pick the lesser of 2 evils. The most powerful thing you can do is to look at the options and say, no, I'm going to create something better.
So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. The very next time you feel stuck in one of those either-or situations, I want you to just pause. And instead of automatically asking, which one should I choose, I want you to ask yourself a different question, a better question. What question will that be? Because finding that new question, that's the key that unlocks everything.
All right, and that's a wrap on our explainer of the opposable mind. If you got some value out of this, it would be awesome if you could like, subscribe, and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear it. It really helps the channel a lot. And hey, let us know in the comments, what book or big idea should we break down for you next? Thanks so much for watching. I'm Eric, and I'll see you in the next one.